How did I get to know One Health Company? It's a funny story, but I think it actually tells a lot about both the company as well as where we are in healthcare and oncology today. So I sit on the National Cancer Policy Forum for the National Academy of Medicine. National Academy of Medicine used to be known as the Institute of Medicine, and within the forum we talk about critical questions in oncology and moving oncology policy as well as the science forward. So one of the issues that had come up from the National Institutes of Health was the role of dogs in comparative biology and also the importance of studying dogs to try and improve our understanding of human oncology and human cancer drug development. I was part of the group asked to say whether or not we wanted to have an extra meeting for the National Cancer Policy Forum about comparative oncology and about dog health. And I was absolutely against it. I said no, and I voted it down, and lo and behold, I was overruled. We had the meeting, and I learned some of the most amazing facts. I learned about how much more homogeneous it was in thinking about the science between dogs and humans as opposed to mice and humans. I started to understand if we could develop drugs in dogs, we'd actually be able to develop smart drugs in people better. I was really struck by the fact that I didn't know this as an oncologist and I didn't know this as a scientist. Fast forward about a year, and I am at the Economist Conference in Boston. I was one of the speakers, and I was at the lunch meeting, and I was sitting next to this gentleman who's telling me about his company and how in the company they're starting to think about studying drugs in dogs and how that might have impact for both humans and dog health. And I said, wait a second, I just heard about this in the National Cancer Policy Forum. And that gentleman ended up being Ben Lewis, and we had a conversation about the One Health Company. And I had to read the article in The Economist, and I said why I thought this was so interesting and how studying both would have implications. I was struck by the fact, not only could you think about doing that, but there's no doggy HIPAA, which means that many of the challenges that we have in human medicine, we might not run into in veterinary medicine, provided we stick with best ethics. These were the conversations that Ben and I were having that day over lunch, and I could not get it out of my head. Now, fast forward about 2 or 3 months, my mentor is a gentleman named Rob Califf, who at that time was the commissioner for the FDA. I give him a call and I tell him about the One Health Company and the conversation that I had with Ben Lewis. And he starts to explain to me about the whole concept of One Health, which I had never heard of before, because frankly, we don't talk about it so much in human medicine. And he and I talk about the fact that there is a lot of parallels between what we were doing at Flatiron Health and what the One Health Company was starting to think about and where this whole story might end up going. I therefore started talking to Ben, and then he introduced me to his wife, Christina, and started to try and understand what they were thinking about for the company. And ultimately, we talked about both clinical trials as well as the world of developing data sets that include genomics data to try and understand the dog and their cancer better. That led to some conversations Christina and I had at a Fortune Health event where she was now presenting and speaking on the human stage in the landscape of how to better take care of dogs in a way that would improve human health. And it all just started to make sense and come together.